They say a spark can start a wildfire. But in my quiet little valley suburb, it was a match that ignited the HOA's downfall. I watched from my porch as Mara Jennings, the self-appointed queen of cul-de-sacs, stood there with her clipboard like a scepter, overseeing the community safety burn of my grandfather's shed as if she were doing me a favor. Little did she know, that pile of ashes wasn't just junk. It was the key to the dam holding back the entire neighborhood's precious illusion of control, and I was about to let the waters rush in. My name's Daniel Price, and I'm no stranger to keeping my cool under fire. Literally, in this case. As a veteran, I've learned that silence isn't weakness, it's reconnaissance. For years, I'd lived in this postcard-perfect community in rural Colorado, where the homes were cookie-cutter cute and the rules were thicker than the mountain fog. The HOA, led by Mara and her band of busybodies, ruled with an iron fist wrapped in pastel newsletters. They weren't just enforcing bylaws. They were curating a fantasy where every lawn was identical, every mailbox straight as a soldier, and any hint of individuality was a visual infraction. Me? I kept to myself on my grandfather's old parcel, tending to the shed that housed not just tools, but decades of family history tied to the dam upstream. The dam wasn't some backyard pond. It was a Real Army Corps of Engineers beast from the post-war era, privately titled to my family for maintenance. But in a neighborhood where gossip flowed faster than the creek, rumors started swirling. Daniel's that reclusive vet hoarding junk in his eyesore shed. Probably unstable after the service. I heard the whispers at the mailbox, the sidelong glances at block parties I skipped. They painted me as the neighborhood oddball, the guy who didn't mow on schedule because he was too busy plotting something. I let it slide, filing away every snide comment like intel for a future op. Patience, after all, is a weapon. Mara Jennings was the epitome of HOA royalty, hair sprayed into submission, nails like talons painted in executive red, and a smile that could curdle milk. She wasn't born here. She moved in from the city 5 years back, armed with a real estate license and a mission to elevate property values. Her board meetings were performances. We're not dictators, darlings. She'd coo in that faux southern drawl she affected for charm. We're guardians of harmony. Behind the scenes, though, pure power trip. Vice President Tom, a balding accountant with a perpetual smirk, echoed her every word like a bad ventriloquist act. Secretary Linda typed minutes with the zeal of a court stenographer, turning petty gripes into eternal doctrine. They didn't govern, they gaslit. One neighbor got fined for a garden gnome deemed tacky, another for Christmas lights up a day past deadline. It's for the greater good, Mara would say, clipboard in hand, as if fining folks into submission built community spirit. And me? I became their pet project. It started small, a note on my door, grass height exceeds standards. Rectify or face assessment. I mowed that day, but the clippings were improperly disposed, earning another citation. We're just helping you fit in, dear. Mara purred when she dropped by, her heels sinking into my gravel drive like stakes in vampire turf. I nodded politely, but inside, I was cataloging date, time, exact words. My binder grew fat with their nonsense, a silent arsenal. The shed was their obsession, a weathered relic from the 50s that didn't match their vision of suburban bliss. To them, it was a blight. To me, it was a fortress of legacy. Inside were blueprints from the Corps, deeds stamped in triplicate, my dad's war-era journals scrawled with dam inspections. My grandfather had poured concrete into that dam after World War II, turning battlefield grit into valley salvation. When the project wrapped, the feds deeded it privately to him, fee simple, no strings but stewardship. Controlled floods, fed the creek, kept the whole subdivision dry. But Mara, she saw splinters and sags. That structure is a safety hazard, she declared at a meeting, her voice dripping honeyed venom. Neighbors murmured agreement, too scared of fines to dissent. I sat in the back, silent, watching her performance. "We've voted unanimous," Tom chimed in, banging a gavel like he was judge and jury. I walked out thinking it was bluff, but deep down, I knew this was war declared on paper. Then came the fire. I smelled smoke before I saw it. Acrid, like burning history. Rushing out, there was Mara, clipboard aloft, directing a couple of hired goons with torches. Community abatement, she called it, as flames licked the walls. My grandfather's tools melted. Dad's chest of metals turned to slag. Permits curled to ash. "You should thank us, Daniel," she said with that shark smile, waving an incident report like a papal decree. Condemned material, unsightly and unsafe. Neighbors watched from lawns. Phones out but voices mute. One whispered, "He's gonna snap now," feeding the rumor mill. I stood there, fists clenched, but didn't yell. Instead, I snapped photos, her triumphant pose, the blaze, the smug board hovering like vultures. "This isn't over," I muttered under my breath, but she just chuckled. "Oh, honey, it's just a shed." If only she knew, it wasn't just storage. It was the tether to the dam's title. By burning it, they'd rattled the floodgates. I retreated to my cabin, pulled out backups from a hidden safe, Grandpa's foresight, and started planning. Silence? That was my camouflage. The whispers turned to outright slander after the fire. At the next block party, which I finally attended for recon, Mara worked the crowd like a politician. Poor Daniel, hoarding all that junk. "We did it for safety." "Really?" Tom nodded vigorously. "Yeah, could have been a fire trap anyway." Ironic. Ha! Laughter rippled, nervous but compliant. A neighbor sidled up to me with a pitying look. "Heard you were unstable after the war. This must be tough." I smiled thinly. "Rumors are like bad grass seed. Spread easy, root shallow." He blinked, backed off. But inside, the binder swelled. Emails. Meeting minutes I'd requested under state law. Photos of the arson they called abatement. Mara escalated, slapping liens on my property for cleanup fees. "Pay up or we'll foreclose." Her letter read, "All legalese and no legitimacy." I ignored it, instead hiring a title attorney quietly. "They think they own the valley," he chuckled over coffee. "But deeds don't lie." I nodded. "Neither do I yet." The real fun began when they targeted the dam. Post-fire, Mara declared it a community asset at a meeting, her voice quivering with faux concern. "That old thing's crumbling. We need control for safety." Tom piped up, "We've got assessments ready. Everyone chips in." Neighbors grumbled but ponied up, draining wallets for emergency repairs on something they didn't own. I showed up, binder in hand. "Interesting," I said calmly, "since the title's in my name." Recorded 1948. Mara froze, then recovered with a laugh. "Oh, Daniel, that's folklore. We've managed it for years through usage." Usage? As if squatting on history gave rights. I slid copies across the table. deeds, permits, tax receipts. Paper says otherwise. The room hushed. A few neighbors perked up. Tom stammered. But Harmony. Mara shot him a glare, then turned saccharine. We're just looking out for everyone, dear. No need to get hostile. Hostile? I was the picture of calm. But that night, anonymous tips hit my inbox. Shell companies, padded invoices. The board was siphoning funds, using the dam as cover. Hilarity in the hypocrisy. Mara preaching standards while lining pockets. I let them dig deeper. Mara doubled down, hiring an inspector who was really Tom's cousin. Critical failure imminent, the report blared, citing phantom cracks. They barricaded the access road, my road, with cones and signs. HOA property, trespassers fined. Neighbors panicked. What if it floods? One wailed at an emergency session. Mara milked it. See? We act while others hoard. Pointing at me, she added, some prefer chaos over community. Laughter again, but brittle. I stood. Funny, since my family's maintained it flawlessly for 75 years. Your repairs invoice? To a PO. Box firm. Gasped. Mara's face twitched. That's confidential. I smiled. Not when it's fraud. The meeting devolved into chaos. Neighbors demanded audits. Tom babbled. It's for the bridges or dams. Slips like that. Comedy gold in the tension. As pressure mounted, Mara's facade cracked. She cornered me at the grocery store. Clipboard absent but venom full. Drop this, Daniel, or we'll make life hell. Rumors can ruin reputations. I leaned in, like the ones you spread about my instability. Cute, but deeds trump dirt. She huffed off. But the next day, more liens arrived, now for defamation. Absurd? Absolutely. I filed a counterclaim quietly, alleging arson, fraud, ultra vires acts. The sheriff, an old vet buddy, tipped me. They're sweating. Audits coming. Neighbors started defecting, sharing stories. They find me for bird feeders, said they attract vermin. Laughter mixed with anger at secret meetings. I hosted informal chats on my porch. Binder open. See? Their powers paper thin. One by one. Eyes opened. Mara responded with desperation. A newsletter blast calling me a disruptor threatening safety. Irony? She was the arsonist. The courthouse was a circus of contradictions. Mara arrived in pearls and power suit, board in tow like a sad entourage. I carried my binder worn, honest. The judge, a no-nonsense type, cut through, show title chain. I presented deeds, logs, certifications. Recorded, paid, maintained. Mara countered with glossy bylaws. Community reliance gives us rights. The judge snorted. Usage isn't ownership. Easement, deed interest, silence. Tom mumbled. But standards. Judge, bylaws don't override records. Ultra vires, personal liability looms. Mara's polish melted. She stammered. It's for harmony. Neighbors in the gallery chuckled. Finally. I added the clincher. County letter confirming no HOA claim. Judge banged gavel. TRO granted. Audit ordered. Gasped. Outside. Mara hissed. You'll regret this. I smiled. Paper remembers. The audit was a farce turned feast. Pages revealed slush funds. Fake vendors. Tens of thousands vanished into dam control. Neighbors erupted. Our assessments. Petitions flew. Recall election ousted Mara mid-meeting. She read the forced apology. Voice cracking, wrongful interference. Private property. The room roared with vindicated laughter. Reforms followed, logged fines, no overreach without records. The new shed rose with neighbor help, backups restored from a kind soul's garage. As I tightened bolts, one said, "They thought fire erases truth, idiots." I nodded, but the phone buzzed, upstream HOA sniffing around. The fight lingered. In the end, the dam hummed steady, a reminder that real power flows from stewardship, not smug votes. But tell me, was Mara the villain for enforcing harmony, or was I the disruptor for fighting back? Drop your take below. Who's really flooding the valley with nonsense?